So in the late 90s, Nicolas Anelka was one of the most sought after young talent. He had moved to Arsenal from PSG and he had set the Premier League alight in his second season, scoring 17 goals that season, the fourth highest of any player in the league. However, from here Anelka never really kicked on, having problems at Real Madrid despite winning the Champions League, and at PSG he fell out with manager Luis Fernandez, and so didn't settle in either Madrid or Paris, and this is a very similar situation to the one Chelsea find themselves in with Romelu Lukaku. Now I do think the Ronaldo and Lukaku situations are very different, and I'll come on to why, but before I get into that, have you ever wanted to be 2 inches taller but still walk around in comfort? Well, you need to go to alphaheight.co.uk. You can use code Atlantis10 at checkout to get 10% off, and they do have free shipping as well, so make sure you click the link in the description below. So as I've said, both players' situations are very different. Lukaku seems to be coming really just from his own frustration rather than from his agent. It doesn't seem to be a calculated move. If you aren't familiar with what he said, he basically said that at Chelsea he's not the happiest, he's not happy with the current system, and that he does want to return to Inter Milan, and not when he's old, but he wants to return to Inter in his prime. And obviously with him being 28, 29 in May and only just signed in for Chelsea, that does suggest that maybe in the summer or the season after he is looking at leaving, which from Chelsea's point of view is absolutely disgraceful, particularly because Chelsea at this point, when he came out and said this, was still in the midst of a title race. It wasn't like Chelsea were down at 8th or 9th, it was still looking that they could potentially compete with Manchester City, and certainly were still competing with Liverpool for second place. Now I do think that Tuchel and Chelsea have the complete right to be very annoyed with Lukaku, and Tuchel was right to drop him for one of the games previous. I know he has come back into the side, and there does still seem to be some tension between Tuchel and Lukaku, with Tuchel criticising Lukaku after the Manchester City game about his hold-up play and how he was constantly losing the ball, and this is a recurring theme in Lukaku's play if you've watched him, particularly at Manchester United. But the fact that Tuchel would come out and publicly criticise Lukaku, not for his work ethic or his off-the-field antics, but for one of the flaws in his game that has been discussed pretty much since he went to Manchester United. So the fact that Tuchel's prepared to bring that up does tell me that Tuchel and Lukaku's relationship is not great at all, and I wouldn't be surprised that if Tuchel doesn't leave Chelsea, which I think is still unlikely despite their poor form, I think Lukaku's going to be gone in the summer. Now we'll come on to discussing whether I think that's the right move for Chelsea, but in regards to Ronaldo's situation, it does seem to be the complete opposite. Ronaldo seems to be the player who, despite causing tension in the dressing room, he's completely in the right. If you watch that interview he did where he said he wasn't going to settle for fourth and that he only wanted to go for third, but ideally for championships and for titles, that's exactly the sort of mentality that not just Rangnick and the Manchester United board want, but also the Manchester United fans. And the fact that there are players who not only disagree with Ronaldo, but want to sort of make this into like a mutiny against Ronaldo and Rangnick also. This just tells me that Ronaldo's mentality is not the right mentality for this particular squad. Now that does sound like a criticism of Ronaldo, but in fact it's a criticism of the squad. I think players like Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Martial, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Dean Henderson, just to name a few. I may have included some players who shouldn't be included and missed out some who are, but in general I would say that certainly the likes of Martial, Maguire and Shaw seem to be the players that are causing a bit of animosity towards Ronaldo in the dressing room. Maybe it's unfair on Shaw, but I definitely think Harry Maguire and Anthony Martial are definitely the players that are causing problems in the current dressing room. And to me, it seems like there's a simple solution. Obviously Ronaldo stays, obviously Rangnick stays, and you just get rid of the players who either don't want to be there or aren't happy with the current training and the work ethic required. To me, it seems like a pretty simple situation. I don't really see there being much conflict. However, in regards to Chelsea's situation with Lukaku, it is a bigger thing because obviously they've just paid £100 million plus for him. He's on big wages and he is their key striker. Without Lukaku, they'd have to rely on Werner, or they'd have to look to bring someone in the last week of January, which doesn't seem likely. So Chelsea are a lot more dependent on Lukaku in this situation, and I do think that Tuchel has to use his man management skills here to get Lukaku on side at least until the end of the season, and I do think he should be able to do that. I think Chelsea and Lukaku can come to an agreement that if he's not happy come the summer he can leave, but that it would be in the best interest for him and the club if he put in as much effort as possible, which does seem like a ridiculous statement, or at least come to some sort of compromise with Lukaku about the system, about how he's playing, things like that, just to get the best out of him, because I do think that Chelsea are much more reliant on Lukaku than they would like to be in this situation, and I do think Lukaku knows that as well. But if he's not performing, he's not scoring, it does make Tuchel's decision to drop him a lot easier, and so it really comes down to Lukaku's own personal choice. However, if I was Chelsea, after learning about what he said and how he's been acting, I would definitely look to offload him in the summer, particularly because he's 29, he's in his peak already. You could probably still get around 70-80 million pounds for him and replace him with a striker that actually wants to be there.